I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet. Hey guys, I'm Ronnie from Widow Mom Life, and in this video I'm going to discuss the 5 things that I've done in the last 6 months since my husband passed. February makes 6 months since my husband passed away, and I can honestly say it's been a roller coaster. There have been some bittersweet moments. I can recall a time or two actually before he passed away when he was going through the throes of his, what we now know is his cancer, is that he quite often said that we would be better off without him. And I, of course, poo-pooed that and told him, we're not going to talk like that, and we're not going to entertain those type of thoughts, because I knew that what he was going through, he needed to remain positive, and I had no idea how hard it was for him, but I knew that in order for him to get better, he was going to have to remain positive. And so whenever he started talking about us being better off without him, or, he considering himself a drain and all of that stuff, I didn't entertain that with him, and I wouldn't let him talk about that type of stuff. So it is, thinking back on that type of stuff, it's hard now to kind of see where we are and see what we have done since his passing. And I hate to say that, well, I don't know if any of this would have been done if he were still here. So I don't like to say that we're better off without him, because I absolutely would rather have him here with us. But I can say that there are some things that have happened that probably would not have been able to happen had he still been alive. And that's very hard for me to admit. So like most widows and widowers, I collected a death benefit after his death, and because I am still raising 2 minor children that we had together, I do receive Social Security benefits as their primary caretaker, his wife, and their natural mother, but they have their own benefits that they collect as well. So that's part of my household income, along with the income I earn from my employment. Now, my Social Security benefit as the surviving spouse, as the caretaker of minor children, will decrease the more money I earn from my full-time job. My Social Security benefit as their caretaker and surviving spouse will decrease the more I make, because I'm not at retirement age yet, so I don't get to keep collecting on his retirement because I do work full-time, and I'm happy to do that. So having his Social Security coming in is kind of like a second income. It is not quite as much as he was making. I think it's about 75% of what he would have normally have made if he were working full time. So I have that plus what I earn as my salary from my full time job coming in, and it's almost like having 2 incomes in the house. So had he still been alive, I would not have been working. Preferably, he would have been the one to return to work. That's the way it's always been in my house, in our marriage, and that was the way he would prefer it to be. Had it taken him a little too long to gain employment, he probably would have been okay with me going back to work, and he would have stayed home to work on, his individual projects that he was working on. But he always preferred that I stayed home and he went out to work. So our household was always a 1 income household. So it's always interesting to me when I think about how God worked things out. God allowed it for me to be the one to go back to work, mainly because I had to. The Social Security would not have been enough to take care of everything. Actually, if I wanted to be on welfare, it would have been enough to take care of everything, because the Social Security would have been able to pay the mortgage and a few bills, but I still would have needed money for food. And I didn't want to be the one to go on the food stamps because I collect Social Security because my husband passed away. I did not want to fall into that. So I made it my business to go get a job, a full-time job. So because the Social Security is not going to remain, that is not a permanent thing. Um, the children's benefits run out when they turn 18. That's it. You're done. Um, and again, for my benefit, it runs out as my income increases. The more money I earn, the less I get, and eventually I won't get anything. Before that, mine will run out before theirs will run out. So everything I get, it contributes to the household, which contributes to taking care of them. So I am working full time. Thankfully, praise God. Thankfully, I am able to work from home. It seems like we are going to be working from home through the rest of the year, probably. As of right now, we're home, and that'll be that way until the fall, and then they're going to reevaluate and maybe then start discussing a return to the office. But even then, it's going to be staggered, and it'll probably you'll have whoever gets called back into the office. I think you'll have the option, and I think you're going to have like an 8-week advance notice on when you would be your scheduled date to return to the office. So at this point, we'll probably be home for the rest of the calendar year. So I am grateful for that. I'm really happy about that. And so are my kids, because it was a big adjustment for us, for them to have me leave the house every morning and not come home until the evening. And they were pretty much on their own during the day, and they're not used to that. They were always used to having at least one of us home, and they went from having both of us to only having one of us, and then to having neither one of us in the house during the day. So, that was an adjustment for them. But children are resilient, and they made it through, and I'm extremely proud of them, and I'm grateful that they were able to adjust as well as they did. So as part of my children's adjustment to losing their father, they obviously they just missed their dad. But for my youngest daughter, she was the last one that we were still homeschooling independently. And of course, because of COVID, a lot of kids were moving to doing school at home. And that was something we were always doing. We were homeschoolers. We've been homeschoolers since the very beginning. But while every other child was being transitioned to be home, I had to transition my child to no longer being independently homeschooled, because I wasn't going to be available to teach her. So I had to make arrangements to have her in an online public school so that she would still be home, not be required to go to any brick and mortar building, but at least she would have the courses that she needed, the interaction that she needed. She was not happy. She is still not happy. But it is what we have to do. She's doing so well. It gets me. How a child can complain about school. She hates school. Hates school. But she's pulling straight A's. Girl, I need you to get it together. But anyway, she's doing well in spite of it all. And I'm so extremely proud of her. And, I always just say, if your dad were here, he would be so proud of you for persevering and just doing what we already know you can do. She would have preferred to have remained a independent homeschooler, and I would have too, but life. And so life throws us obstacles, and we just have to learn how to maneuver around them. So the holidays came through, and Thanksgiving came through, and we're not really big on celebrating holidays. We didn't make a big to-do on Thanksgiving. We didn't really consider it Thanksgiving. We called it Turkey Day. And we didn't always have a big turkey feast. Whether it was on that Thursday or not, we might have done it for the weekend. And so doing the turkey was always my husband's thing. So he loved doing big meat and getting the seasonings and doing all that stuff. And I usually just took care of the sides and the desserts. So this year my son was the one to do it. to help. He didn't want to do it on his own this year. He was happy to help me, but he didn't want to do it on his own. So that was a big change, and it kind of was, you know, everybody enjoyed the meal, but at the same time, we knew that was something that Dad would have done, and it kind of, you know, he made a dessert uh, during the fall and winter months that, you know, we're no longer going to have because it's not something that I make. It's something he made, and you know, he put his own spin on it, and I wouldn't even try to attempt that. So here we go into Christmas, and so again, we're not big on holidays like that. So Christmas came around, and my extended family was going to make sure that we were a part of anybody's Christmas celebrations. So when it came down to Christmas, my oldest daughter asked if we could have a Christmas tree because she saw the big Christmas trees in the store with it like pre-lit and everything, and she was like, "Oh, Mom, that would look so great in our living room." And you know, I said, "Yeah, it would. That's pretty, you know." But I gave up doing Christmas trees well over a decade ago because I just got tired of doing it, and so I haven't had a Christmas tree in a very. She's never had a Christmas tree in our house. My daughters don't know that life. So we negotiated, and we decided that she can have a Christmas tree in her bedroom. So for this Christmas, she had her very first Christmas tree, and she bought it. I paid for it, of course, but she picked out her tree. She got decorations for it, and allowed her to have that in her room. And we did Christmas presents this year. And so we exchanged Christmas gifts with my aunt, not my aunt, their aunt, and their aunts and their uncle and their cousins, and they received gifts from them and from their grandmother. And she was so happy. My oldest daughter, my youngest daughter was had access to it too. They share a room, so she saw it. It was in her room too, but it was my oldest daughter who really wanted it. And so they had the presents, whatever present they got that I wrapped, I put it under the tree in their room. And they were very happy about that. And so we had a very quiet Christmas. Christmas Eve, we went over to my sister's house and exchanged gifts with her to see her. Because, you know, with COVID, we weren't doing any gatherings or anything like that. So they had that, and then we came back home, and then Christmas morning was, you know, no biggie. You know, so I told them, I said, whenever you want to open your presents, we'll do that. And so I recorded it and, you know, sent pictures out to my mother and to family. And we spoke to family, and that was nice. And, you know, I know that is something that would not have happened if my husband were still alive. There are a lot of things that I allow that my husband would not have allowed, would have wanted to go through. Not that it would have caused an argument or anything like that, but it was just stuff that wasn't going to happen. And I was just going to leave it alone. You know, for me, there's nothing, not a whole lot that's worth fighting over. So it's like, you know, we either going to do it or we're not. We're not going to do it, then okay, fine. But there were a lot of stuff that I have allowed that I know my husband would never have allowed. And there are times when there are things that he did allow and I'm not allowing, and the things that he set in place that I kind of change and switch up on. And it's one of those things where there's this fine line that I'm walking, because I don't want to undo everything that he did and everything he set in place and the rules that I say he, but we as a unit, but you know, he being the father, he was the head of the household. So, you know, there are things that he set in place and rules and ways that he wanted us to live, and I'm kind of undoing some of that. And I don't know how my kids are, you know, I'm trying to walk that fine line where it's like, I know your dad said that X, Y, and Z, but I don't that's not what I want to do. So going forward, this is what we're going to do. And so there is a fine line to walk there. Uh, it's been interesting. It's been interesting to see the kids adjust to certain changes. So 6 months later, what have I accomplished? The number one thing that I have accomplished is getting full-time employment again for the first time in 15 years. I left the corporate world in December of 2005 when I gave birth, after giving birth to my first daughter, who is now 15 years old. And I have worked from home. I've done little gig work, little side work, little gig jobs from home, but I have not worked full-time outside of the home since December of 2005. So this is my first time back in the corporate world. I am not in the same field of work I was in prior to becoming a stay-at-home mom. Not that I necessarily didn't want to go back into it, but I did want to do something different. I wanted to do something that gave me a little bit more flexibility with my scheduling and my demand on me at work. So it's a completely different field. It's interesting work, but it's not something that if I really wanted to go back to work and to get back into my career, it's not something I would have chosen. But it does pay the bills. So I'm not mad about having it. We need to get the bills paid. We need to eat. So that's the number one thing that I've accomplished. The second thing that I accomplished was I actually paid off a credit card. I sure did. And I'm so proud of myself. It's something I have learned a lot in recent, and I say in the last year. I've been doing a lot of personal development and learning about money and budgeting and managing money and creating wealth and building wealth. And so paying off my debt was a major thing for me to do. And prior to my husband's death, he was out of work, so a lot of stuff got behind. So it was very important for me to get this stuff caught up. And I never let my credit cards get behind, but because they have very small minimum payments. But I paid off one of my credit cards. It was my smallest one. I follow Dave Ramsey, so I was doing a debt snowball, and I got that credit card paid off, and it was the most liberating thing I have felt in such a long time. And I just feel so good about myself. Along with that, the third thing that I have accomplished, which probably happened before number two, but the third thing that I have accomplished is I built a baby emergency fund. I have been able to save up for what would be considered baby step one in Dave Ramsey's plan, is to build a starter emergency fund, and I have been able to do that. And again, it just feels so good to know that I have money again. There are finances in the house again. To have that emergency fund sitting there, knowing that if something happened in the house, if I needed something, that there's a surplus of money sitting aside, that I don't have to worry about waiting until my next paycheck to be able to handle something. And that goes along with paying off the credit card as well. I don't want to have to use the credit card, but thank God I have it available now, that free to use. So yeah, that's a big accomplishment for me. The fourth thing that I have accomplished in the last 6 months since my husband's death was I am now the sole owner of my home. When we first bought this house a few years ago, one of the main things that we did was, while I was not on the mortgage, I was listed as his beneficiary. We co-owned the house with survivorship. And so whichever one of us possibly passed first, the spouse would have sole ownership of the house, have the sole interest in the house. And so praise God that was done, and that we had that the Almighty put that on us, to agree to do, because if not, I don't know where we would have been. The fact that I'm able to own a home in my name and be able to pay the mortgage and know that my family is secure in that way, it's liberating. It's a complete weight off of my shoulders to know that we didn't have to get evicted from an apartment. We didn't have to get foreclosed on because I couldn't afford to pay, or my name wasn't on anything, and so I didn't have rights to anything. And I know there's some women out here in this world who, outside of being devastated by the loss of their husband, they get devastated by the financial blow because their name isn't on anything, or they have no idea how to function financially. And thankfully, throughout our whole marriage, I was the one who handled the finances. I made sure everything got paid when we could pay it. And, I was able to handle that stuff, and I wasn't lost in the sauce. And if I can encourage anyone to do anything, whoever's watching this, whoever should come across this, whether you are a husband or a wife or girlfriend, make sure your name is on some stuff. Make sure y'all have survivorship. Make sure you co-own things. Put your name on it. Be responsible for it. And I'll come back and discuss more of this stuff later, but please have your financial plan and your estate plan in place. Please do, because we didn't have life insurance. He had life insurance when he was working, but once he lost his job, we lost the life insurance. And and then COVID, so getting reemployed was another hardship altogether. And then he got sick, so he couldn't get life insurance then anyway. So, oh my goodness, please, I implore you, get life insurance, get a financial plan in place, get an estate plan in place to protect you, to protect your children, to protect the other spouse, because you just never know. You never know. The fifth and final thing that I accomplished in these last 6 months is that I did establish a financial plan. And I am currently working on my estate plan, because now as a widow, I have children. I have minor children still. And I never expected my husband to not be here. And so now I have to prepare for the fact that something could happen to me before my youngest child turns 18. And where does that leave her? So I have to make sure that she's taken care of. So I have to make sure I own a home. So I have to make sure that my home remains with my family. Make sure that my kids have somewhere to live. Make sure that they have the finances they need to survive. And because I don't have a spouse, their father's no longer here, who's going to take care of them? The minor children. My oldest son is 19 now, so he is an adult, and the state is not concerned with him in that regard. But as far as my daughters are concerned, who are still minors, I need to make sure they're taken care of. So I have to make sure that I designate, and I have, designate someone who, in the event of my untimely death, that this person is who I want to take care of my kids. Here's my paperwork. I have life insurance. Pay off my house with the life insurance money. Pay off the house, and there will still be something left over. That will help take care of my kids. I always joked with this person. It's I'm like, girl, don't let the state take my babies. Don't you let my kids end up in foster care. I have too much family for that. So I have all sorts of alternatives. And if not her, then him. If not him, then them. So, and I have a number of people who know that. If something happens to me, make sure my babies are taken care of. But that's my responsibility to put the plan in place so that they can be taken care of. The people I've chosen, I trust that they're going to take care of my children if something happened to me. But I have to make sure that they also are prepared to take care of my kids in my absence. So I have life insurance for me, on myself. I have life insurance so that my kids will be safe, so that they will be taken care of if something happens to me before they turn 18. Now, I will continue to have an estate plan and a financial plan even after they turn 18. But I have to protect them. There are stages in life and there are different terms in their life. And so right now, there's a certain plan in place until they turn 18. And then when they turn 18, something else will be in place for them. So those are the top 4, 5, 6, I don't know, things that I have done, that I have accomplished in the last 6 months since my husband passed away. It has been a roller coaster. It has been definitely been a bittersweet journey. You know, I always wish, I don't always wish, let me not say that. If I had a choice, I'd rather him be here. I would rather have him here to live, continue to live this life with me. And for all of the accomplishments that I have achieved financially, I would have rather him be here with me. You know, let's pay off this debt together. You know, let's get this life insurance on track together. Let's get this let's get this savings account together. But no, it's all me. It's all me now. And so, for whatever reason, God has put me in this position. For whatever reason, I'm here. I was meant to be a widow. I was meant to be a widow with 3 teenage children. I was meant to be a widow in a state that I am not familiar with because I'm not from here. Um, you know, my family is not here. My family is, I'm from New York, so my family is spread between New York, Jersey, Maryland, and then Florida, and Georgia, and then Florida. So I have family everywhere but here. And so, you know, but there's a reason why I'm here. There's a reason why I was meant to go through this here. So my objective now is just to continue to live life as best as I can, to find, to reawaken me, the woman I was, the woman I have become. Like I said, I present as a single woman, even though I don't consider myself a single woman. I have daughters that are watching me, daughters who are watching me. I have a son who is watching me. And so I always want to make sure that I'm living my best life according to the will of God. And I pray daily that I am accomplishing that. And I believe that I am here still to serve a purpose, not just to be their mother and his widow. I believe I have another purpose. And within that, there is something else I am supposed to be doing. And so hopefully, you know, on this channel, you can watch that purpose evolve and show up and blossom. And yeah, so that's all I wanted to come on and share. Just give an update on life so far in the last 6 months. You know, we're moving into the spring season next month, and then there'll be summer, and then, you know, before you know it, it'll be another year. It'll be a year, you know, since his passing, and then it, whew, you know, time is not waiting for any of us. Time is not waiting for any of us. So for those of you who are losing loved ones, whether it's your spouse or a parent, a sibling, whoever you are, and whoever you are unfortunately losing, my heart goes out to you. I pray your strength. I pray you have a support system that you can count on, who you can call on, and who can be there for you to help you through. Please feel free to reach out to me. If you need an ear, if you just need to talk something through, if you have a question about something, feel free to email me. I'll leave my contact information in the description box, and you can always email me and ask a question if you need to. So, again, this is Ronnie from Widow Mom Life, and it's been 6 months, but there is life after death, and I hope you live yours. Until next time, be blessed.